evening. We're going to call this meeting to order. City of New Haven meeting agenda, Community Development Committee, Wednesday, July 15th, 2026, 6 p.m. at the Board of Alders Chambers. Meeting continued on the Board of Alders YouTube. Board of Alders notice. The Community Development Committee will meet in person at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, July 15th, 2026 at the Board of Alders Chambers, Church Street, New Haven. Second floor will be acted upon the following items. LM-2026-0247, order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving a development and land disposition agreement by and of the City of New Haven. The New Haven Parking Authority to Church Street LLC for the development and disposition of 2 Church Street together with all such ancillary documentation as may be required to implement the innovation cluster. This item is on file and available for public inspection in the Office of Legislative Services, 165 Church Street. First order, Honorable Chair of the Honorable Michael Smart. If you need accessibility related accommodation, please contact 203-946-7651 or 203-946-8582. In accordance with the City of New Haven COVID-19 guidelines, that are now optional. Public can send comments to public testimony at this time. I'm going to ask all those on the committee to introduce themselves, starting from my right.
Christine Kim, Ward 7.
Carmen Rodriguez, Ward 6.
Frank Douglas, Ward 2.
Marnelli, Ward 8.
Okay, and before we ask presenters to come up, I'm going to ask that anyone in attendance here, we ask that you use your phones. If you need to take a call, please head out into the hallway so that we can be respectful to both the committee members and those who are presenting. We do, if you need any restrooms, we have staff here and we need to do that. But again, we are going to start with our first presenters. If they can come forward, and as you do, we're going to ask for name and address for the records. Thank you. Good evening.
Madam Chair, if I may ask, should we more copies of the presentation? Do you have copies?
so I think, presentation up.
Name and address for the record, please.
Presentation on.
Yeah, Mike is.
Okay, well,
My name is Ryan's looking at, I apologize.
I think we'll join.
yes, thank you.
Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Dean Mack. I'm a Deputy Director of Economic Development in Haven, and I reside at 492 New, apartment 2A.
Sure. Good evening. I'm Giovanni Zinn. I'm the city engineer, and I reside at 957.
Good evening, I'm Nancy Mandel. I'm outside environmental counsel to the city of Haven.
Good afternoon. My name is Ingrid Derek Lewis. I am the supervisor of the Building Group, and I reside at 67 Edit Board of Hearing.
I'm Carter Lynn Stanley with the Enterprises, and I reside at 847 Lowell Road in Concord, Massachusetts.
Good evening, Madam Chairman. My name is Michael Piscatelli. I'm the Economic Development Administrator for the city, and I reside at 353 Summit Street in New Haven.
Hello, I'm Ted DeSantos. I'm the Director of Construction for the Enterprise.
I am Tyra Staley, the Director of Employer Engagement for Field Works, and I reside at 28 Lisney Street in New Connecticut.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, first and foremost, I want to say thank you for your time tonight and the opportunity to present one of the most meaningful projects we brought to you in many, many years. It's the culmination of significant work. You'll remember that from the removal of the 34 Expressway. And I would suggest that some opening remarks and observations about this project is it's so much more than what it was. Highway, with incredible support from the state of Connecticut, the Department of Economic and Community Development, our development partner, Carter Stanley, New Haven Works on Southern, many others, that has been transformed into an area of global significance and the meaningful nature of science that's happening here in New Haven, and how it's transferring both to new startups and in support of the economic engines throughout the entire state. And you're going to hear a little bit about the broader initiative tonight, which is this $50 million grant, which is all the headlines. But we also need to talk to you about the specifics of the first physical development project, which our development partner, Carter Stanley, will deliver on building a new building, which will support these emerging industries. And we will also talk about how and the efforts we are making to connect residents here to the workforce and job opportunities at all ladders of the buildings that are coming to the construction stage through the permanent phase. And many of you who have been with this on this journey for some time will know that it's continuing, right? So we'll talk a little bit about the city and the work that's already been happening, but forward momentum where we go next. And I'll close some opening remarks. Sometimes we're struggling talking about what a big means, because it's not the building, it's what inside and how it's impacting all of our community, from academics to hotels. The story that I think has become resonant to all of us is something about the 30 or 40 students from New Haven Public Schools that are going to be going to work remotely. And that is an amazing story. Our Career Pathways program is working, the Career Pathways part. And now we have our high school students ready to go to the most technologically advanced submarines anywhere ever made, right here in the state of Connecticut. And they're going to be starting that work later this summer. Electric boats' competitive advantage, their ability to be the best in class over many years forward, will depend on industry and science coming out of New Haven. And that close connection opens up opportunities for our residents, people in the workforce here, to drive ecosystem growth for the entire state of Connecticut. So tonight you'll hear a little bit about place. You'll hear a lot about the building and the transit conditions of building. But think of it in the context of where it takes us in terms of solidifying our economic future. So I'll pause there because we have lots of topics tonight. We have a lot of questions about how the campus does work. And for that part of the journey, who want to speak as well. So we'll make sure we get some time for that as well.
Thanks, Director Piscatelli. So maybe we can start off with the agenda for the night. So we'd like to start by kind of talking more about sort of where Director Piscatelli started. That this is both the closing of a project that we've been working on for decades and the beginning of a new one, the Innovation Clusters project that's emerging in that same exact area as Downtown Crossing. So we'll be going over the Innovation Cluster project, the team and overview of that application process and what it means for New Haven. And then we'll be going through what's actually before the Board of Alder's directly there, TLDA itself. And that includes a number of projects, although it focuses on the future project it does many others. So we'll start with the structure of the actual agreement itself and then move on to the project. There's a city component, infrastructure projects, the Church Promenade Art, the building itself, that also is public infrastructure, the Thompson Drive, and the two Twitch vertical construction and public plaza, all that being delivered by the same. And then the workforce and job opportunities that we created the projects as a whole. And a lot of time for discussion and Q&A, I'm sure. So, I think that at first glance, this looks like another one of 3 lab office buildings that has come as a result of the Downtown Crossing, the decommissioning of Route 34 and treating those properties and development parcels. But this effort is a bit different because of just the scale of collaboration. We have partners that have been with us for a long time, Stanley Enterprises, obviously, and new partners like it was a first partnership between Yale and UConn, and the state of Connecticut DCD, which has really led a vision of leading the state into a quantum technology direction, led by Commissioner Eve, and supported funding and initiatives that we talk about tonight. We also have Southern Connecticut University as a partner in Quantum CT, and broadly as a workforce partner in the city, which has now a new Center for Quantum Technology, expansion of the previous Nanotechnology Center, which is the workforce implementation side of the Quantum CT. And we have our traditional partners, the Parking Authority as well. We're kind of going on this journey together, and we'll talk about the different roles throughout the night. And so I think that one of the questions might be, why is there such a broad coalition of this project and organizations being involved? So a few years ago, the state of Connecticut launched the Innovation Clusters program, and the city of New Haven, along with many other organizations in the state and the area. The state DCD put together a team and identified a potential for New Haven based on all of the innovation ecosystem work that we've done in the previous years in the life sciences. There was confidence that there was already a density of institutions, a density of quality of life that was bringing companies from outside and organically grown companies that wanted to stay in Haven because it was a great place to live for their employees, as well as to work, because if there's connectivity and mobility nearby, very close to the station, buses that are a very robust system that's going to be added onto the bus rapid transit system. And these anchor institutions Young Haven Health to the university itself, Gateway in college, all in very close proximity, working together to build this life sciences ecosystem that the state thought could be expanded into something new that would include life sciences and the new technologies. And so they identified that potential, but they left up to us, this large coalition of partners, to come together and build a project that would really work. So we spent about a year doing that. This application for grant funding to the state of Connecticut and ACD. They reviewed and awarded us $50.5 million to invent the first innovation cluster grant in the state. And so Governor Lamont and DCD staff came down to New Haven to announce this $50.5 million grant for all our partners at College Street. It was a great, beautiful day in fall, and we were able to hear about the new plans. And just 3 months later, Governor Lamont was back in town to announce another commitment to quantum CT, over $100 million, some of it depending on a NSF grant application that Quantum CT, all the collaborators, Yale, on 7, have put into the federal government Science Foundation. Just yesterday, there was an announcement that we won that grant. So we were the only one out of 12 regional engines by NSF and granted funding. That was a quantum focused center, regional engine. And that's a really big deal. And it's an acknowledgement of all the history of the quantum industry in New Haven, which I think many of us didn't really even know was happening until 5 years ago, at least in our office. And as we dug into this, we found there's a really rich history here. And so just to kind of step back a bit, quantum is a word that we've used a number of times already tonight. And I just want to kind of let folks know what that is. So quantum technology is an operationalizing of quantum physics, which is a fundamental state of nature that has been studied for many years, for many decades. Starting in the 80s, scientists were able to take these quantum properties of matter and turn them into something that can be used for technology development. And there was a breakthrough that was led by Yale's Emeritus Professor Michel Deveray and his colleagues in the 80s, which they were just awarded the BoA Prize for last year in physics. And that breakthrough allowed for quantum matter to be, quantum properties of matter to be manipulated to provide new technologies and potentially computing technologies over the next 40 years have been developed into something real. So in 2004, Yale hired Deveray, and he came to the facility, partnered with current Yale faculty to discover many new ways of turning quantum properties into computers, a new kind of computer that could be more efficient and could solve some problems that current computers can't solve at all. And so many series of discoveries by the Yale group, the Yale Quantum Institute, that was set up by Dr. Deveray, as well as Robert Chokloff and Steve Kervin, some luminaries in the field. Created this underlying technology that is now underpinning the quantum computing efforts of large companies like Google, IBM. There was also a company started by these professors in New Haven, which was recently acquired by a quantum computing company for $150 million. So more investment now investment into New Haven because of this technology. And right now, BoA is hiring the residents to work in the company. And so all of that work is something that is familiar to people in this quantum computing field. There's a kind of an inside joke that refers to the idea because so many people have gone through the industry, large company. has a member of BoA associated with it. And just New Haven. And so that so that work has allowed us to continue winning these contracts. So we won the NSF planning grant, Quantum CT. So Quantum CT is also announced they will be making their home here in Haven. So that's just another piece to add to the ecosystem. Bring the economy as well down. And so, essentially, the Innovation Cluster grant program was for place-based development that would provide more space for innovation ecosystem to develop. And that's where Open Stanley comes in to provide another building that will house these kinds of technologies, and new companies will be attracted to New Haven to take part in these kinds of technologies. And so the part of the 2 Church Street development itself is extremely important to the entire effort of the Innovation Cluster. And it's why we're really here today. So I think to let Carter kind of talk about the journey that he's been on and that with Stanley has been on almost 30 years here in New Haven. And then we'll get more into the details of the DLTA and the projects themselves. So Carter,
thank you. Madam Chair and members of the committee, thank you. Thank you for having me back here to talk again about this journey. It's remarkable to sit here and think that it's been almost 30 years of work in the community trying to develop this cluster or this ecosystem. I think we are spending a lot of time talking about the today. There's been a lot of exciting news about grants that have been awarded, and I just want to step back and talk for a second about where we've come from. Almost 30 years ago now, when I first arrived, a much younger man in New Haven, the dominant narrative at the time was about job losses. It was about employment departing the state. It was an exodus of manufacturing jobs, like so many communities in our country, where manufacturing jobs in Manchester were going overseas, led to significant unemployment. But we were also losing our, I would say, older line technology companies like Bayer, Bayer, West Haven, GE left the state. That was an enormous issue at the time. And there was a lot of consternation at the time over this exodus out of the state of Kentucky. It was an incredibly painful narrative for all the residents here. And people came together and talked about, what do we do? Do we try to throw money at the GEs of the world to hold them? And that felt like a race to the bottom. There were other states all around the country who were putting massive incentive packages together to pull tenants out of neighboring states. And that made no sense. The conversation turned instead to, if we're losing our manufacturing base, what is this technology industry that is springing up in places like Seattle, Palo Alto, San Francisco, Cambridge, Research Triangle, and how do we access this? At the time, our universities were not turning out a lot of programs, which was a big problem. And we were having trouble at the time accessing these industries. And so we started saying, what is New Haven? What's our unique quality that we can capitalize on. And so we started looking at, we have some other universities. We have great university partners in addition to universities like Alberta, Southern, Quinnipiac, Gateway. All of these other universities have led to a highly educated workforce. We also had venture funding locally in the state. We had a shortfall of space, and we had a shortfall in talent that could go into the industries. And so we set out to try to create a new cluster, to train a new group of people or retrain people who were coming out of manufacturing and allow them access to these new technology jobs. And we decided at the time that one of the strongest engines was the med school area, that they had incredible research that was coming out of that school on a daily basis. And we decided that we wanted to try to create incubator spaces in close proximity to the medical school so people could start the next generation of or employers in close proximity. Now, at my age today, 30 years later, I would say our first model of the incubator spaces was a failure. We came to New Haven and, the incubator model at the time was to build 5,000 square feet, which is a big space. It's, it's like maybe half of this room. And we would talk to people with ideas who were coming out of med school or working in the industries. And they would look at these spaces, and it would be 2 people. And instead of a 5-year lease, they would want a 2-month lease. They didn't have furniture, they didn't have permits, they didn't have anything, and they just wanted it for a short term. And so we would throw them into these spaces, and they'd be spending in the spaces. I'd come back a couple months later, and there would be 48 people in that space. But their ideas started to take hold and took off in the space. But it was still too rigid space. At 5,000 square feet, I estimated that the space worked for them as a tenant for about 3 weeks. And then they were way too big, and then it was way too small. So we set out to create a more flexible incubator. I spent an enormous time trying to work biolabs to New Haven. And biolabs eventually committed to coming into 101 College. Now, biolabs was the next generation of the incubator space. They were a massive space. It was 50,000. And what I liked about biolabs in the city is that if you were 2 people with an idea and you wanted to go see if you could have this idea take root in the city, you could go lease 1 bench and 1 hook, and you could lease it for a month or 2. And if the idea seemed to catch a little bit and you hired somebody else to come in and work on it, you could actually rent the seat next to you and then seat down. You could keep expanding. So if you think back to that company that grew through 48 people in my space, you could do that in this space. It gave a flexible model for these tenants to get situated in New Haven. And so what we saw was tenants started staying. Instead of trying to hang on to one big tenant with all our might, we started planting lots of seeds. So biolabs have between 50 and 150 small tenants. at any given time. These are the next generation of employers for the city. And this is about creating an ecosystem for these future employers to take hold here, to learn to love New England, to stay, to grow their companies here, part of an ecosystem, to talk to each other about where to get capital, where to get space, who to partner with, where to find talent. All of a sudden, when you look at a thriving ecosystem, you look at things like what happens when it's something I've always watched carefully. We have lots of tests in the city. 9 out of 10 of them will fail, which is a high failure rate. I always watch what happens when they fail. In the past, people have fled New Haven. They've been poached or hired away or transferred to San Francisco. Today, we have enough of a base that those people stay in New Haven. Their kids are in schools. They're committed to this community. They know about other companies that are thriving. So although their company may fail, first generation tenants like Killian, Molecular, Vaccinate, all tenants of mine who failed. I've watched those individuals in those companies, and they made their way into the second generation. They found their way into Arvinas, Alexion, BioA, Alda, Alex Therapeutics, next generation of employees that are in and around now and growing in this incubator. This is an incredibly successful system and a virtuous cycle when it starts with momentum. A couple other things I would add real quickly to it. Yale Venture, an incredibly important component excuse me, to the ecosystem. Yale Ventures is where they do technology transfer from the university into the private sector. These are the very first seeds that come out of the lab into private sector tenants. Yale Ventures has had much higher levels of success than 30 years ago. They are turning out a lot more companies on an annual basis. And this has been a very difficult market to do that. And they're still turning out tenants. It leads to a diversified economy. I'm going to keep coming back again and again, trying to hold on to one big tenant like GE and a race to the bottom with other states to try to incent them to stay in the state. I don't want to do that. I want to plant 1,000 seeds here in New Haven and have some percentage of them take off and become the next generation of employers. That's a diversified economy that you can really build on. So we're going to talk an enormous amount about quantum. Quantum is a tool. Quantum is a tool that can accelerate computing power in life science. Life science is what we do well. Quantum is a tool that can make us do it even better. That's incredible. Quantum can give us the ability to run a clinical trial. Instead of 10 years and $1 billion, you could run it in a week. That's incredibly powerful when you're trying to cure cancer. That gives us an enormous amount of leverage. All of a sudden, New Haven is being spoken of not in its desire to be the next Kendall Square, but being New Haven itself. People are speaking of New Haven with this quantum component and life science. as one of the dominant centers for these technologies. And we have to make sure that we are ready for it. One other thing that I would just add, Unilever is a really good example of the depth of the market and the breadth. The depth is we now have life science companies like Arvinas, Alexion, Biohaven, all that out. You can run down the list. Say we have a deep pool of life science talent. Breadth, then that starts to expand. The companies like Unilever. Unilever is not a traditional life science company. They have a lot of different consumer products. They came to New Haven, looked at this ecosystem, and said, instead of going to San Francisco or Cambridge, we chose this ecosystem. They chose New Haven. That's incredibly powerful and exciting. That's something that reverses that trend of the exodus out of Connecticut. It's part of what I think will continue to grow a broader base. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about getting ready to receive that base. One of the great fears I have is that we develop this great base of growing 1,000 seeds into this new economy, and we don't have a workforce that's ready. And so we will spend a lot of time talking about both BioCity program, which is incredibly important to me, as well as the BioPath program. BioCity, the high school program, readiness, job training that occurs inside 101 college, and then the BioPath, which is you graduate out of BioCity, you have the ability to go to a 4-year program of life science to get people there. We need to expand this into the quantum industries with quantum CT, with our partners who are here tonight. And we will talk more about, as this starts to take off, how do we make sure we are ready for it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Carter. And I just want to touch on, Carter explained, I think, very well the quantum technologies. This are a tool that can be applied in materials. It's already kind of failed to mention before that was really one of the states investing in quantum as a strategic priority for investment. And I do want to acknowledge that the Deputy Commissioner, Parisi, thank you for taking the time and presenting CD. So I just want to shift gears a little bit now. We're going to start. I've done a lot of high level intro, the industry, the history, and now we're going to get into more of the detail while we're here to talk about the projects, schedules, costs. So we're going to start doing that now. First, we're going to start with just an overview of the building, and Ted DeSantis is here from Stanley to really go through the building itself and public infrastructure we provided in more detail. The building itself is another lab and office building. It's 200,000 square feet. It is being designed specifically to enable quantum information technology and science to be developed, which is quite difficult and requires a lot of different vibration, magnetic prediction, and things like that that are above my head, but I know that Carter and his team are working hard on figuring out. The building's going to have structured parking. It allows for about 100 spaces that will be created in that with us and meet zoning. It will also have a public plaza, so there will be a new public space. There's already one in 1 College Street. The plaza will be meeting with that one and creating a much larger public space that will be connecting to downtown by being on that 34 property. And the building itself will also be meeting LEED Silver qualification, so it does take into account also bicycle parking. So some of the sustainability measures that we're working developing for many years, and Stanley has already provided for these buildings too. So I'm just going to go over the structure of the DLDA itself. Just at the high level, we can break it down into about three components. The DLDA itself is an agreement between the city, Winston Enterprises LLC, called WE2 Church Street. The address is to Church Street. We refer to as parcel B at times. It's our older documentation. That's before we actually determine the address. And there are three main components of actual construction projects. One is the on-site public infrastructure, which are the tunnels and drives. So we're maintaining the service drives as usual, building tunnels on top of it for the building, and the construction above. So that includes the plaza and streetscape as well, all being delivered by enterprises. And that's all utilizing state funding and private funding. The offsite city infrastructure, which is the Church Street Promenade, which I mentioned earlier, and ARC Western Bridge, those will be explained in further detail by Giovanni, and those will both be delivered by the city and will be our responsibility to explain. Then the community benefits section. So they're the public and private infrastructure, the public infrastructure, and then programming and benefits that will come to the city and residents. So that includes construction jobs, permanent jobs. I think Director Casatelli mentioned this earlier. Sometimes we get focused on just the tenants and the jobs they're bringing, but there's so many new jobs created on these kinds of buildings of this size, and we'll get into that further. There also are very, I think, exciting partnerships being developed with New Haven Works and Stanley, which we'll hear more about, that are going to make sure that New Haven residents have access to jobs and also training to prepare for those jobs. And so I think just it's my job to kind of talk through some of the financing of the project, the budget, which we'll also be reviewing in the DLDA. There is a financial impact statement as part of the package, so you can review that as well. To follow, get into the graph that we have there. But the public infrastructure totals approximately, or the total is $45.9 million. You can see that the vast majority of the funding comes from state and federal sources. The city's contribution as a total is $2.34 million, which is about 5.1%. It's 5.1% of the total public infrastructure investment. And so this funding will also be enabling over $200 million of private investment for the development. So we are trying to make sure, because really advantages the project in terms of both timeline and cost, we made sure that only state funding is going towards the actual public infrastructure that's happening onto Church Street. And then the city has acquired, or will be acquiring, federal funding to provide, to fund the public infrastructure the city will be constructing. So that's Church Street Promenade and Park. We also recognize in the budget that there are, at this 30% design phase, not 100% certainty about what the cost of the building construction will be, but we are identifying potential for there to be a gap. And so we wanted to make sure that we understood exactly what the process would be. When the cost estimate comes in, if we identify a gap that does remain. And so we worked very collaboratively with the city, Winston Stanley Enterprises, and State DCD to figure out the strategy here outlined in the executive summary of the DLTA submitted. And I think does a good job of going into detail, but just on a high level here, there are kind of 3 steps for us to address kind of gap. One would be before we look for any new money to fund the gap, to do value engineering, to look through the plans, make sure there's nothing redundant, because it could be maybe cut out or reduce the actual effect of the building or functioning of it. And that would be step 1, to collaboratively work with the developer and the construction partners to see if there's any cost savings available. If there's still a gap, then we outline the process to continue to seek additional funding from federal sources, state sources. We'd go back to see if there would be money remaining. At the current time, these are being explored, but if there were that gap, after developing cost reduction strategies, then we working with our developer partner and DCD with their support to try to figure out ways to apply for additional funding. If there was still a money gap, we have sort of a waterfall. The city would commit $600,000 to try to fill in the gap. If they go beyond that, the developer would fill in up to $600,000. If there's still a remaining gap, the city would commit to filling that gap. And we can discuss this more in the Q&A if you'd like. But we want to get that out of the way and be very transparent about that in the process. So the next stage is to really get into what the funding is going towards. So I'm going to hand this part of the presentation over to Giovanni to walk through the 2 pieces. And then Ted DeSantos from Stanley will talk about the 2 tertiary building itself and also the public infrastructure fund.
Thank you very much, team. Appreciate that. Thank you for having us here tonight. It is incredibly important what we're doing here. You heard about all the opportunities, and we will talk more about that as well. I always like to say that infrastructure really doesn't have any value in and of itself, right? The value of infrastructure is connecting people to opportunities, education, to each other, to a better life. And I think that these public improvements are part of that. They don't sort of live on their own, but they're part of something much bigger and much better for our community. Excellent. So we're looking at the opportunities here. How do we have this area that we're calling the cluster of near the medical district of the previous downtown crossing buildings? How do we improve multimodal access to the innovation cluster? Like a good time to know what we're not doing. We're not changing traffic patterns or any of the roadway network around this at all. That's been established in a lot of the previous projects. This is about improving access also for people who are not in a motor vehicle. And also there are some improvements on signal time like that will also be part of this, but really not changing the, not reducing lanes or changing the roadway. So the first is to improve that access. The second is one of the things that we really relied on is how it's hard to, when we come to Union Station, where do we go? Creating a connection from Union Station directly to downtown, and creating a better way for people who are new to New Haven to understand where they're going, and connect right into the innovation cluster, to the hill, and to the town. The third thing is also to create a sense of arrival. When you enter New Haven, coming off the highway, when you're coming out of Union Station as well, where there's a place that you're coming into a special city, a place that we're proud of, that has a lot of opportunity, not only for our residents, for everyone. And that it's very clear that you're entering something. It's not just any old exit off the highway or any train station, but you're coming to New Haven. So this up on the screen now is sort of more of a graphical view of that. We've got the innovation cluster. It's a sort of shaded area. The Church Street Promenade is an attempt to create this main thoroughfare from Union Station to downtown, through to the hill as well, in partnership with the future Union Square development that the previous testimony and actions of the Board of Alders. So I'll leave it at that. So next slide, please. So in order to accomplish this, we have two main parts of the offsite public infrastructure. The first is the Church Street South Promenade, which we talked in more detail about at the City Services Environmental Committee months ago, which is, and I think I typoed there, but it creates the walkway from Union Station up to South Frontage. It's a 20-foot wide pedestrian path separated from traffic with a tree belt and curb, and it's a federally funded project. Our initial project cost was $3.65 million. The money was federal, 20% of that local. And I think we've talked about the local match, the fiscal impact statement, looking to construct that in 27 to 28. And the second is the Arc Bridge. The first part of that is the Church Street Bridge, which is a state of Connecticut asset that will be coming to the city as the state no longer has a roadway that goes either over or under the Church Street Bridge. So rehabbing that bridge so that we have an additional 30 years or more of service life. We're actually going to eliminate half of the bridge because cars don't go under it anymore. So we can turn that just into dirt maintenance like a bridge does. So that is not something that's good for us now, but also financially for the city in the future. So we're going to keep the southern half of the bridge, which is over the service drives, put a new waterproofing membrane on it, do some other repairs to it to again extend the service life and be good stewards of that structure going forward. We also want to improve the pedestrian crossing north and south across the MLK and St. Frontage Road corridor. Right now, there's a lot of lanes of traffic, especially if you're going not only north-south, but also east-west. So the Arc Bridge provides a pedestrian pathway from the Orange Street intersection, for example, along MLK and across the Church Street Bridge over to the Bible District to the Hill and to Union Station. That is also federally funded. It's in the Transportation Improvement Program for $4.8 million with initial project cost. Again, 80-20 state local match there. It will also have a gateway arch feature, which you'll see here in a couple of slides as a part of that even part of our infrastructure. This will require a closure of Church Street between MLK and South Frontage Road. We're working very, very hard. Hats off to Hayden Native and Chief Structural Engineer of the city, Zachary Shapiro, for all of his work on this to really cut down our closure time to 3 to 4 months. We're hoping to actually cut that down significantly more from that. But at this point, as I think about as short of a time as it let me say in public. We have a lot of ideas to cut that down, and that would start again in 2028 as we dovetail the construction schedule of the development, the 2 Church Street development. Next slide. Just a little graphical representation of the Church Street South Promenade. This is on Church Street South. I will admit my eyes can't quite read this cross street name there. Columbus Avenue, there we go. So this is at Columbus, moving the lanes of traffic to the west side of the median and creating a 20-foot wide promenade like you see in many cities around the country and the world, and creating a really high-class pedestrian experience for people with wheelchairs, for strollers, etc., to be able to get from Union Station to downtown. We also have safety features like these intersections. We're also retiming the corridor for traffic signals to traffic flow and motor vehicles, and also replacing signals. So those are all parts of the Church Street Promenade project. Next is the Arc Bridge, which is continuing that 20-foot wide walkway on the east side of the existing Church Street Bridge. And also creating a bit of a space right at the corner of Church Street and MLK with trees and plantings to provide some green space as well at the start of the city. And then the walkway continues either straight to downtown at the top of the page, or off to the right towards the Ninth Square, to Worcester Square, and to the east. So this is, again, providing a safer way, a more comfortable way for people to get across this, a fairly significant amount of roadway infrastructure. In black there, you can kind of see the arc, the vertical arc. If you go to the next slide, this is a sketch, full rendering. We're not quite that skilled yet at the city, but hats off to our architect, Josh Weiss, for putting this together, creating a signature that will be lit at night with the arc to underlines, in a sense, the new building and creates a sense of place, a sense of destination as you come into this.
Great. Thanks, Giovanni. Appreciate that. So next we will have Ted DeSantos explaining the public improvements and road construction.
One, the development agreement is really about a partnership, and it's been a great thrill for me in my career to have been involved in the 100 College Street and the 101 College Street partnerships. So getting to work with countless stakeholders and city staff, and seeing these projects get involved over time. They are in many ways very complex projects. You have private development adjacent to public infrastructure, and you have construction that not only has to marry up in space and 3 dimensions, but also in time. So there are construction logistics and construction. So, the property that we're talking about is bounded by Church Street on the right, the Giovanni and Church Street Bridge project, and the Arc Bridge will abut the development of the project. I'll reiterate what Dean said. Our design is at 30%. So there's an enormous amount of work in front of us to understand how this design is going to evolve and how those details are going to get coordinated with the city so that these projects can marry up in time and space. The good news is we have a lot of experience doing this together. Right? This partnership has seen many day-to-day issues over the years. We've dealt with value engineering, we've dealt with unforeseen conditions, and we have coordinated these fairly complex surface maps and their rights to all on other sites. So we're definitely going to leverage all that experience. And at the same time, I'm confident that we will have new challenges as we get into the problem because they're all a little different. At the site plan and street level, Giovanni said it best, this is all about connectivity. So our design has to make sure that it is connected to the Church Street Promenade and the path station, that it fronts very well on Church Street and able to connect to downtown and all the businesses and restaurants in downtown along Church Street. At the northwest corner of the property, it's right across from Temple Street. And so we have to address the condition where, if you're familiar, MLK, where it comes by Gateway College and Temple Street Garage, the grades are dropping off. Right? It's low right at Temple Street, and then it starts to come up at College Street. There's a low point in the middle at Temple Street. So along that side of the site, we've got to deal with grades that are changing. On the South Frontage Road side, at the southwest corner, we're across from Congress Avenue. And the problem is to connect Congress Avenue has to be accessible, and it has to provide access to this great public space that's been created at 101 College Street and will be extended and expanded at the 2 Church Street site. So as you look at Congress Avenue on the bottom in the middle, and the Plaza Street, the plaza that's created across the street there. What you're looking at is almost 3/4 of a public space. And the design efforts here have been to create a space that is well connected to that College Street Plaza, connected vertically so that the grades are allowing the space to be programmed for events, whether it's industry events, business fairs, or the science fairs that have been held at our buildings in recent years. This is going to be a fantastic outdoor space. The two church amenities are going to, in many ways, mimic the amenities that you see at 101 College Street. So, large trees, even though we're in air rates development, on the top of road, we're providing large nature and seating and walking paths, phoned us with tables, and chairs, and umbrellas, and access for food trucks. So this wants to be a space that is open to the community, that is accessible to the community, and it's really increased amenity to the ecosystem that we've all been talking about. An amenity that can serve the ecosystem as a place to gather. Going one level down, so now we're under that level that we were just looking at. We have to provide the service drives, and they're roughly in the same alignment that they are today. At the bottom of the page there are 2 lanes in each direction today. Also, there will be 2 lanes in each direction under the proposed condition. And what's going on down at this level is not just access to loading and trash disposal and all of those functions that we don't want happening up at the street level, but it's also providing access through to the area from the hospital loading box, 100 College Street and 101 College Street, located out to the west. There is a whole lot of coordination that will happen at the Church Street Bridge along this eastern wall of our building, where the project will fill dirt into the north span and then renovate and refurbish the south span. So our construction is planned to begin spring 2027. And we will be ready at a high level for the State Bridge project to start in spring 2028, consistent with what Giovanni said. That's about as far as we are with our construction work right now. We know how long it's going to take us to get to a point where all 4 lanes will be open to traffic. Our contractors can be out of that space and city work on the Church Street Bridge. Just to talk a little briefly about the building, Dean gave you some of the facts about the square footage and the LEED accreditation and sustainability. There will be bike parking, there will be EV charging within the parking. All the parking happens at that lower level. It's not a lot of parking of this size. The BLTX has less than 100 spaces. It's likely to be less than 50 spaces. So that's good news, right? We're not building more parking garages. This image is really where you're starting to see the City Arc Bridge project in the foreground and the building in the back. What I can say about the building is that it will be fully zoned compliant, BD rezoned, and there is a lot of work going in right now to proving out the floor plan, not only for you, but also other tenants, potentially Quantum CT. And our focus is making sure that we have transparency and activated uses happening at the street level, which is a requirement of zoning, but it also makes these buildings seem full of life. And so where we're approaching this building is with a theme of science on display. Usually, first talking about having a showcase space. It's the brightly lit space there on the left side of the building, and there's a possibility of other science on display as we walk through the building. That's the next one. This view is standing at the end of Temple Street, looking towards existing 101 College Street on the right. So everything to the right of the 101 College Street sign there is all existing condition. And the rest is a rendering of the new building. and how we're solving the problem of that grade change along MLK as it borders the site. So we've created an ADA accessible path and a staircase that as quickly as we can up to that plaza level so that we can create as much flat space up the plaza level. So this is moving a little bit up towards College Street, looking back towards Temple is in the lower left there. Existing 101 College in the foreground, and you can see the existing ADA accessible ramp that will allow you to get from MLK Boulevard up to the plaza. And in this view, as you look at the building, you can see some intention of signs on display there at the lowest level. So we want people to be able to understand what's happening in the building and consistent with our other buildings in the cluster. This is a view standing at the end of Congress Avenue, looking across South Frontage to the existing plaza on the left-hand side and 101 College Street, and the new plaza sort of split down the middle on the right, and the new building there on the right. So we're very pleased with a lot of coordination that's happened with city staff, and as this design has evolved for this plaza, we've solved some really complicated issues of what's happening down below in the loading and the tunnel space, but also solving the grades so that this can be a space for industry and city events to happen up at this level. We're working on park access and providing more programming at this level. But right now, I think we've got the biggest problem solved, which is the grades of MLK and the grades down below.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that description. I just want to have the last image of the plaza. I wanted to note, we've had a lot of collaboration with Winston design team already, and not just the EDA deep plan, parking, after the early plans from Winston and their design partners, provided a lot of comment, provided a lot of constructive. And the plaza, I think, is a great example of how Winston and their design comments from the staff, and I think a good job of improving that space to do exactly what Tim was saying, make it one flat space where it feels like one large plaza. And that was something that we all worked on together, and we had about parking. We outlined that kind of feedback process in the DLTA that we've had. So I just want to now hand it over to the Barnum Haven Works partners who are here with us tonight. There's been a lot of collaboration that's already begun between Stanley Enterprises and Haven Works to figure out how to get folks connected with job opportunities that exist today, and to start figuring out what the cost will be once things really get going with construction and once the building is built. So I'd welcome Ingrid and Howard as well to come in and speak here tonight.
Thank you for having us. We are very excited about this opportunity. We're starting out with, of course, before the building can be in use, it is construction. So we're going to be leveraging our partnership with Stanley to I'm just going to speak for you.
Take them closer to you.
So we've been in talks with Stanley and the city of New Haven around getting residents connected to these opportunities. And that's been a big thing with all of these developments, right? Going up, having access, residents having access to these jobs. And with work pretty well. We've learned how to improve on what didn't work. Right? So with that conversation, we've been going through, we've got a letter of support from Winston about his commitment to the development of these projects and how we're going about collaboration on these opportunities. all the way from his commitment to connecting us with the, his project management, project management, director, and then also with the contractors, right? The contractors, it's really important to get connected with the, because that's where the jobs really lie for the local laborers, all of those type of jobs, right? So when we talk about that, you think about how that's gonna happen. And I'm not to get into too much detail, but this is where the collaboration has started. This is where so we're gonna be, in constant communication, doing regular check-ins with them, and just kind of evolving and, bringing that into fruition so that another project will come out when we've missed an opportunity. Okay? So with that said, I think we're very confident. We drafted, so we have a letter of support from Carter along with the city's support, but we also have a partnership agreement that we've been drafted together in collaboration every step of the way. So as someone who's been involved with other projects and other developments, I feel very confident in this project that it's moving forward in a positive direction. Construction jobs, permanent jobs, introduction to tenants, all of those things happen in these conversations. So I don't want to get too far ahead, but yeah.
Thank you very much. I want to say thank you, and as the executive director of Raven Works, I join the Tyra saying that we are really happy to work with one another. One of the things that is a little bit different in this project is that we are in here at the beginning of the project. We started with the dean, we're talking with Carter, we're talking with everything together before we agree on, and this is what's going to happen. That was part of the last month. But really making sure that these job fairs do happen, that these connections happen, and that people in even residents along there. We have done, as the people was done a lot of work here. So we need to deal with that. But we have hired over 2,000 new residents in the short time that we have connected. We plan to do much more of that. And I think this is a great opportunity with these new tenants and investment coming in. One of the things that we are looking at is even before the project start, how to resource security people, whatever. So we are hoping that will be, and based on this partnership, going to begin right to the end of the project. I see great things in Haven. Is it going to happen? We know, because we know this is a long-term project, but once we stick with it, we are committed to ensure that New Haven residents get what they benefit from this project.
So, as a partner of New Haven Works, I would just jump in and say this is an incredibly important component project for us. I would say first, and maybe not first, but without question, we're not successful as an organization. We're not successful as the or in the industry. Everything that I talked about trying to create an ecosystem, if we don't have a pipeline of ready participants in this industry, the thing I fear most will occur, which is I've always been concerned that if we're not ready, we'll go back to these employers as they grow larger in the state. So it's our job to be ready to receive them and have a pipeline of New Haven and Connecticut residents who are ready to feed right into this industry. These are the talented people that should hold these companies here. These are the opportunities. This is incredibly important for us. I also look forward to working with David Works. This is not the first time we've worked with them. We've worked with them on several projects. The last project, for example, we had almost 86,000 hours of New Haven resident work on the project. I think it was over $1 million that went into New Haven. That's incredibly important. We had 250,000 minority hours on 101 College. We had over 100,000 hours of apprentice hours on the project. We committed to 15% apprentice hours. We actually exceeded that goal. So our goal with this partnership is to continue the partnership, but continue to enhance and exceed the numbers that we've already been successful with. This is important from the city standpoint. It's also important from my standpoint. This is not the first time I've been in front of the board. It's not the last time I will be here. So if we succeed, and I come back and I can say we hit our goals, I feel very good about coming back. If we don't succeed, it's very difficult for me to come in front of you. And I've been here for almost 30 years. So I'm going to keep coming back. Well, if I don't hit these numbers, you will know about it and you will hold me accountable. And that's important as a partnership with New Haven Works and the partnership with the city.
Great, thank you for speaking to those important points. I think that we had up on the slide some of the DLTA commitments that I think that you'll be able to about those. They're very similar to what we've done in the past, making sure that we're following 12 emergency ordinance requirements, as well as other supplemental workforce programs that we're explaining right now. And I'll go over the schedule a bit later, and some items that are on the workforce will be listed there as well. The construction code and stuff, and the employment team as well. Thank you. I just wanted to touch on one more aspect of the workforce. Start off the presentation talking about all these great partners that have been involved. A number of them are focused on the workforce side of things. They're providing context for how training would happen in separate for the Southern Center, Dr. Christine Brockridge, and Peter DeMoss is here as well. And MCT has plans for how to train provide education through new schools and other routes to residents and children. They want to get involved with this industry one day in the future. FCT has a really robust job board for the life sciences, and they collaborate very closely with the businesses to make sure that those jobs are posted there. And New Works as well has a great website for how to sign up and get involved with programs. So I just want to include those references, the website that are most relevant for finding workforce opportunities from each of these organizations. And please advise any of your constituents with job opportunities. So now I'm just going to kind of come to the close of the LDA section. So we're turning to kind of, again, tonight what really brings us here to the board is the DLTA submission. And I want to just go over some of the notable provisions in the DLTA that you'll be able to review and already. So the city's public improvements is section 2, which we went over. Detailed Giovanni, our city engineer, going through the plan for the Church Street Promenade, the Arc Bridge, exactly what that entails. Sections 4 and 5 are really what the developer delivered projects are outlined. That's streetscape, tunnels, drives, and public plaza, which are I went over the fiscal impact statement. Those are funded public funding, and the developer's other obligations, which really focus on the Church Street construction as well as the delivery schedule, which we'll find in Exhibit D when we submit the full package. The acceptance process for the AREC guidelines, which is something that we've worked very closely with all of our city staff, technical staff from the public emergency services, as well as transportation and engineering, to make sure that we have guidelines that would allow for this new section tunnel to be integrated into the existing tunnel and really close out that process, and that there are maintenance procedures, there's emergency services procedures, and that all those staff and equipment designs are going to accommodate kind of unforeseen circumstances and make sure that that tunnel is safe and operating well over the next decades. The section 7 is really where we cover all the Together We Grow workforce development initiatives and commitments. So we go over construction job commitments that the developer has agreed to, and other goals the city we're planning to facilitate construction jobs as well as permanent jobs and sustainability commitments for development. Acquisition of a parcel is spelled out in section 8, which is, obviously brings us to having a DLTA. It's a city-owned parcel right now. It's going to be acquired by a developer. There's going to be some pre-development work that's starting pretty soon. And that will happen before closing to do some environmental exploration. That's something that is at the developer's option. And we have the questions for in the DLTA. And that opens up some of the information in section 9, where we're going to be talking about the insurance provisions and indemnity of environmental. And we have attorney Dell here, and Dell has been helping us with that section and helping us to apply the new environmental the state, the release-based to this new agreement. So that has changed since the last 2 agreements, and we had to integrate some things there. And then the operations of the projects, which includes the payment of taxes and our repair and maintenance plan for the tunnels and drafts. You'll be seeing some additional exhibits. We have some examples here for a project schedule that will be delivered before the second reading. We'll provide a really detailed project schedule as well as construction logistics documents. And the image here is showing the building at a phase with the steel pilings coming out of the ground, the tunnel usually opened, and where traffic will be going through that tunnel. So there will be multiple phases presented for the second reading and very detailed documents so you can see exactly how the construction is going to unfold and how traffic will be managed during the process. And just to kind of jump over to the schedule and wrap things up, looking ahead. So later this year is when the local employment team launches. That's described again in the DLTA. The city is collaborating on with the developer and making works to connect residents to job opportunities. That's also enabling work on the site would get started if the developer chooses to do that work. By 2027, early 2027, the first cohort for pre-construction will start a partnership with New Works, and that's also what we anticipate building construction to get started. And so we talked about coordinating with city, which is the construction company that's been chosen by Stanley to develop the building, to make sure that they've had conversations about the opportunities that will be available before that construction gets started. Then road infrastructure and building construction will have between 27 and 29. That will include all the construction that Ted outlined, and minus components as well, the city components at a later stage of that 27 to 29 time. And we hope for the project to be completed by 2029. So I want to just thank everyone again for coming. Thank you, Alders, for having us here tonight to allow us to talk about the success of the project. I know we covered a lot. We have folks here to answer questions. And I want to open it up for question and answer now. And I think that we'll kind of rely on Director Piscatelli to kind of coordinate our yeah, so I think that we can get started.
Any questions from committee members?
Okay. Who's- No, hold on. We don't have a lot of questions. Or many of us do.
Alderman Nelly? Go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll start with one question, and I'll probably have more, but it's going to be more towards the workforce development. We were just talking about that. So, sorry, for a second, we talked about the accountability. You stated that, in the future, we have accountability because you would come back to us and appreciate your partnership over the 30 years and really seeing New Haven research and development space. I'm so really appreciative of that. But I don't want to wait until your next project to know if this is working or not. It seems to be what the future of our jobs here in New Haven will be. So this is probably works as well as the developer. How, like, what kind of jobs are going to be available in these spaces? There will be 300 jobs that are that will be coming in, and those will be scientists and things of that nature that are probably already filled. They'll probably just here. What kind of other jobs will this space have? Because if this is for our future of New Haven and our residents and on here, the people, how can we guarantee that we're training them? I mean, 2029 is actually not that far in the future. The construction jobs are great, but what's the purpose? How can we be training our young to be taking on these jobs? 3 years is not enough. College degree is 4 years, and so I'm hoping that some of these jobs will be something of that nature. Will need a specific training that can keep our residents. That's it. Thank you.
Maybe we'll start with the contractual obligations and then we'll move on to how we're operational. So on the accountability standpoint, both of our core programs, which are the construction workforce program and the small contracting program, are monitored. And we have staff inspectors, they check to make sure that, when we're counting residents. So there is high accountability there and more penalties. Nicole Jefferson, which is presenting to board holders for the finance committee, will be here to talk about the step up that we've been doing on regulatory projects. There will be accountability during the construction days. Then to the point about the pipeline and the jobs moving forward, I offer a little bit of a broad lens, given that we have one building, we have the initiative of the 3 buildings that are really set either. Porter and Tara, and talk a little bit about how our just local employment team, the construction boards that start early on, how all of that will operationalize early, such that we're ready for jobs in the early building, but then into Church Street.
Maybe one of the 2 of you want to talk about how to jumpstart that in the beginning.
Well, first, we are working with some of the schools, the trade schools, and directly, and Eli with me, we do work with job board, we do work with the government. So we are looking at the trade. So that's a right now what is coming up, and really starting from these schools, the people who are graduating, and some of them, a lot of them are getting on programs. So those are the ones we look forward, the jobs that are coming up. Part of that, the jobs will come from tenants and the buildings. Again, one of the things that we have in this contract that we're putting together is that are these jobs going to be possible to give works at the early stage, and then have and having guaranteed interviews and all of that. That is fine. Stuff happens, and they're looking at the people from the even going to make sure that we are not only land dependent, but actually presenting them these resumes and so on. One of the things that we, again, we will be meeting in regular basis to talk about it. We will have a shared spreadsheet, so we will know the people put in, and one of the promises have a person. Yeah, who is that person? Who will be our liaison between these organizations that we can only say, okay, this is the person, and I come what is going on with this person. Similar to some of the relationship that we do have now with you, the university, which works well. So we want to establish something similar to that. And I think that's the way, holding not only the country accountable, but also New Haven economy. We are always reposting our numbers like 12% numbers. It is, so I think that we really keep on track that it's getting higher. Where you're coming from.
Also to go with that, you asked about, the jobs, some of them are coming from Trumbull, but some are not. So there'll be a good amount of jobs, and Carter will speak a little more about that, that will be available to New Haven residents. And like you said, 3 years is not really a long time, but that's why we're also partnering with Gateway, with UNH, with Southern who's here now, right? And with, their school. I can't remember off the top of my head. Albertus is my alum. I don't know how I can forget that. But these are the pools that we're working with, so that once we came into a good understanding of not coming into that, what needed, then we know how to go on, right? And so while we're going to find it, we're going to all the career, we're at all the career. I think more career fairs than we care to say, to recruit these people, to find the right individuals who are ready now, who are in the process, so they're juniors and they're seniors, and then they're alum. We're having events, so we're working with, is one of our core relationships. We're working with them, creating a team of people who are going to focus on those referrals who are New Haven residents. At Gateway, they sent over a list of people who are New Haven residents that have these qualifications. But I would like Winston to also speak about the positions that don't require a degree right now. And he's going to speak, I don't want to steal your thunder, but he's going to speak about those positions that they don't require, that our residents don't know about. And we're having, we're just having a career fair on August 10th, and we're going to have them speak about, I asked others speak about these positions that we know. We have a community series of career fairs. We go into each neighborhood and we present our partner employers, but we also present resource partners as well. So Southern is a resource partner as well as a recruitment partner. So anyone looking to get into it at whatever level they're at. We have parents in the room, but we also have kids getting ready to go to college, right? And this is how we get that message out so that we're progressing. They hear it now, but also preparing that next generation for the jobs that are coming. I'm sorry.
No, it's great. And thank you for the question. I think ultimately it's a really tough topic. We could spend a lot of time talking about it. I'll try to just be brief and say, I always try to break the bucket down into construction jobs, permanent jobs, and within permanent jobs, there's high school training, there's college training, there's retraining opportunities. And then it's about making sure the community knows about the opportunity. So having a partnership with New Haven Works is incredibly important so people know what positions are available. And then something that doesn't get talked about very often are, I forget what the right word is. I think it's follow-on jobs. So everybody thinks that, first of all, everyone in this building has a white long coat and a PhD. It's not true. For every single PhD, there's somewhere between 25, depending on the maturity of the company. There are sales people. There are attorneys. There are janitors, security people, facilities people. There are so many different jobs within that organization that are non-science. And those are really important positions that we want to be able to create connections to. But then outside of that, there are follow-on jobs. So for every position, every single position in this building, it supports something like 3 to 5 jobs outside of the building. that are unrelated to this, but just part of the virtuous cycle of when you have an economy and lots of employers that are growing, it supports the crew at the Omni, the restaurant down the street, the furniture vendor. It supports people like Wes Oliver, who's a painter, and his crew coming in as they turn spaces over. So there's lots of different components. There's construction, there's permanent, and then these follow-on jobs. And it's all part of what we hope will be a virtuous cycle with these partnerships established up front that we'll be able to make these connections.
Thank you. Can I just ask you a follow-up?
Absolutely.
So you were talking about, career fairs and going into the schools. Have we gone into the public schools in here in New Haven? Also, have we maybe done like a canvassing door to door to let you, because not all these people are in these spaces. And I want to make sure we're bringing up all of New Haven, but we're bringing up New Haven. And so, we kind of have to meet people where they are. And most of them are probably home or in parks. Or, are we doing spaces as well?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, we do, once we have a job, we do,
Great.
we do. So this, they go to the different, based on where these job fairs are being had.
Sign up registration. So we don't just knock on the door and tell people about it. We get commitments from them and they're pre-registered right at the site. We have a QR code, they go right in. So that's how we get an idea of how many people are attending. So maybe 100 people will pre-register, you look at 150 or 100 people that should actually show up, right? And so we do that every year for about 4 New Haven Works career fairs, and then we attend other career fairs. So what New Haven Works career fairs is the door knocking. And when we do the camping, we hire outside campers. We have a skeleton crew, and we have a small organization, but one of us is usually leading those, if not half of the team with campers. So that is something that we do.
Yes, no, I'm all. Thank you.
So if my phone's dying, I'm just gonna follow up on Alder Martinelli. I wanted you all to speak first, but I don't want to lose my thought process. You talked about hiring campuses. That's a great opportunity to connect with, in this room, we have 30 Walters. And one of the things that we talked with economic development is we are here. These are our communities. We've had many conversations. I'm excited to see a new building come in, but as my colleague Walter Martinelli said, we also want residents to occupy those spaces. You may not have a PhD. There is probably going to be a mom. Kids in college, and now she's home. Finished one job, now she can start another one. So we have to definitely do a thorough canvas. And I'm to say, Director Lucas is available. He's got every single telephone number on each altar. You can look us up, and we can join those campuses. And then Director Piscatelli had reached out to me, and I was unavailable. So I owe you that we have to go back into our communities, because please understand, we know our communities. When we talk about open spaces, older Kim and I share a nice week. The same way we have salsa night or art night, we can put a blast out there for New Haven Works. Join and get folks, meet folks where they are. And there's a lot of park spaces. I can say Tobich Square. There's multiple spaces that you guys need to utilize. So we want to hear from you, because we want everyone, more importantly, your residents, to be at the table. They may not wear a white jacket, but they may want to do something else. And I know that the director is going to push us on that to join these campuses. Thank you.
I appreciate your comment in that regard, and we're very much. I'd also suggest, as we were in the early campaigns, we have other programs. We have security deposit, first-time home buyer, elderly repair, the Union Square project is coming. So it's an important moment for us to be out there generally about what's happening here in the city and focus in on there's a real opportunity to create like this and grow your family. And so we're very much aligned.
Thank you. Colleagues?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure who the question's for, so I'm asking. So with Unilever, and Quantum CT slated as your initial tenants, what if any direct commitments have been made with local youth development program to support the city's public schools?
So Quantum CT has not committed to development yet. They're out there. They're, I don't want to say formation stage. They're very much formal with funding. So we have not moved it far down the road. With respect to Unilever, they have not made a formal commitment because they're not clear what that would mean. But what I would say is a huge part of why they chose it is to come here and involved. I spent a lot of time talking to them about our classroom, which the BioCity classroom is embedded within the biolab space. And I don't know if you've come out to see it, but I would invite you at any point to come to the building and tour with me. So we put the New Haven Public School classroom inside our space so that kids are working side by side with the best innovators and companies of tomorrow, and that they grow in that space with these innovators. Unilever, that was incredibly compelling. That was a huge part of why they chose. In their current location, they don't have that. And so they very much look forward to coming in and participating in that. We need to make sure we secure them as a tenant in the building, get them open, and then I think there will be some very fruitful conversations about how to do that. This is something I feel very strong about.
Yeah, one more. So how will that development team in SCSU ensure that these educational pipelines being created are accessible to students who may be facing educational disparities or cannot see themselves in traditional life sciences?
So the team from Southern is here tonight, so I think maybe we'll hold most of that until their testimony and they can talk about it. I would share with you, actually Southern has been with us from the first building, the first seed funding in the Board of Office. So really, that partnership is strong and really inspiring. I will share, however, one thing that the Southern team does is they do these training with high school teachers. So they bring high school teachers all over the state of Connecticut in to talk about the science and making sure our students really, they're taught the right way. And so they invited me over one time to, give the welcome. And they asked in the room, like Trevi, who's next door to us, the next building, who's a Southern. All these people that work at Trevi are Southern grads. And as you know, Southern is local, super local. Everyone that graduates from Southern stays local. I thought that was a good indicator that there's a real stickiness to what Southern is doing here. We'll talk more about it. There's a real validation of the fact that they are a tentpole in bioscience education on all state universities and our country.
Not sure. That came up. So I just got the packet today, so I didn't really get to look through it totally. So I apologize if I overlooked anything, but I noticed that in the TTMP traffic impact study. Noted a bunch of stuff missing. Would that be something that would be completed? I noticed that the project is only 30% design, so is all the traffic components a part of that? What's
Yeah.
missing?
I'll start with
Design.
it, and then I'll turn it over to Ted. So in your packet, the board refers out for comment from the different departments, and what you see is the reflection of what you, right, this is where we are. So you should have traffic, just city plan, and DPW. DPW more on the traffic. On the traffic piece, our traffic, we take the Route 34 corridor condition extremely seriously. And varying the different improvements, including the Dropbox access. So what you see reflected there is a very typical report from the traffic department. I will say, one of the things that we debated early on was, should we do the concurrent phase crosswalk where the traffic, pedestrians walk the traffic? We're not going to do that here because you've got the interface with the highway. It's going to walk. So we're going to work out a phasing plan, signals whereby traffic stops with walk, just because of the getting come up.
And I'll just add to that, it's very early process. Over 20 years of working with TTP as we built out these buildings in downtown Crossing, through construction traffic, every single condition moving around, and traffic through the site while building. There was nothing in the TTP report that surprised me. They did just receive an early draft of the traffic impact study. We're getting ready to make a site plan application in late August. In weeks, there will be multiple TTP and the details and the responses and comments and questions will need to be in place before we make the site plan up.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
No problem. Dante? Alder Jones?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of questions from me. Can you just speak a little more about the parking? Please.
So first, in some ways, this is very typical of the downtown. The zoning ordinance does not require any parking, so the parking is scaled to the building's needs. And that theory has been in place for a long time as well, that shared parking, the parking garages. And although there was a parking garage at 100 College Street, what we will want this building will only have a modest amount of parking on the ground floor, some service level parking. The balance of the buildings will be accommodated by the parking authority by using Temple Street, the bigger public parking facilities. And very seriously, they pay the rack rate like the rest of us. And those spaces are then shared. So as you know, not everyone can pay anymore, and not everyone takes a car. So 200 jobs doesn't mean parking spaces. And so that's the general theory of it. And we're really pleased to see that the design of the building isn't just parking, or is it above it. So Carter has the relationship with tenants. We talk a little bit more about how we perceive their needs, but that's the theory.
I think the need is an interesting one. It's one that I think pre-COVID, it was almost a 1-to-1 ratio, or 15 years ago, it was almost a 1-to-1 ratio. Single occupancy vehicle or somebody who works in the building, shows up in a car and needs a parking spot. So we built these big garages. And what we've found as we've come through COVID is, and through just the diversity of somebody has a doctor's appointment, somebody's on vacation, somebody's out sick, that there's a lower percentage of people who are showing up. And so instead of a 1-to-1 ratio, come down quite a bit. And then you throw COVID and you come through hybrid work, and that number comes down even more. That's very exciting for us because it enables us to develop more on the site in terms of what the plazas, reduce the number of parking garages, enhance the connections to the train station. Have more people walking, biking, taking public transportation. That's something that I think we all agree or are on and feel very good about for the city.
Thank you. And then, so in the past projects that we had, 101 and 100, you just mentioned that 101 is not fully occupied. What problem is there? Issue? What do you find that is a problem?
No, I wasn't suggesting it was a problem at all. Seeing the construction activity happening on South Frontage Road, they're just filling floors now, so it's the build out case.
There's difference between fully occupied and full. So it is fully leased.
It's fully leased.
Yeah, fully leased.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a difference, and so not all the tenants have finished their spaces fully moved in. So it's fully leased, but it's not fully occupied.
Then my last. So on the past project, how successful have you all been through this pipeline thing? Pipeline. Give me a little information of how.
I want to talk a little bit about the statistics and performance.
Yeah, so, I mean, I feel like you should talk about first what your experience has been. I don't want to cloud your experience of
I like to
working
hear
with.
from
Yeah.
Okay, definitely, we have worked with these projects and we have, so, we have, as we go on the projects as we would like, no, not really, and that's why we are, again, getting into this project really early. Some of the problems that we've experienced is really people like that they really avoid getting. So what we're discussing now is more access to all developers and how construction and how big the city and the push on these people. Have we done? Have we had a lot of people on these projects? Yes, we have. But we just like to see more happen, and that's why we're talking about getting into this early stage. Can we get some security even before the business starts? Can we get access to all the documents and is there like the job fairs that we're applying and this exposure so that we are introducing these people in the early? Are they looking at engagement residents because there is not only from the city, but people like that. Let us introduce you to the process, and that's why this partnership is so important. So early in the game, so that they know that registered with New Haven Works. This is what what you can see. Part of what we talk about is that the jobs get posted with New Haven Works early in the game, so that we have New Haven residents even before everybody from the outside applies, so that you have this smaller pool of people that you can be looking at, because that's how we intend to have it work. I don't have inside information looking in the construction pipeline about, individuals by names or whatever. I do have that because I also know that, but, we have our success stories and we're based on that.
We have a lot of success stories, and with 101 and 100, I came into it a little in the middle of it. And what I want to stress is that while we have decent success, there's always room for improvement. And with Winston getting us, allowing us to be involved at the development stage, that's why we're in negotiation of the partnership agreement as to what we would like to see happen. And thus far, we haven't had any ripples in what we were asking for introductions to the project management company, leveraging our relationship with Mr. as to what he, as a developer, would like them to see, what to see them do, the cooperation, the collaboration. And that's where leveraging our responsibility and what we're going to bring to the table is going out there and finding qualified case pool of people that we can present to them we don't expect anyone to guarantee any positions. That is not what we expect of every employee. We tell them, you're hired, but what we can ask is that they give our New Haven residents for consideration because you're building our town. You're building in our town and you're connecting, your commitment to connecting New Haven residents to our county is that strong. And so we're ironing that out. Have a good relationship. We're building on that relationship. I feel strongly about what we're going to do in the future for this project being in that beginning and being able to see.
Well, as my colleague, Madam Chair, reiterated, we, the Board of Aldermen, are here to help in any kind of way we can. So,
We appreciate that.
Canvassers.
we gotta knock out doors too, let us know.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, we will.
Thank you.
I really want to apologize because someone, that connection with all times about things and I have to do everything by myself. And as Ingrid is teaching me about the Alders and how we've been in your neighborhoods a lot and I have not connected. So I want to publicly say that I apologize for that. And we're going to do better in connecting with you
So,
each time we go into your neighborhoods and have an event.
So before we move on to my other colleague who has these questions, I'm going to say this to you. This is brand new. We're all here today. We're going to take this journey together. Because we want to be able to not just stand in those beautiful glass, see through windows and just go, what in God's name is going on? So this is our mission. So there was a lot of moving parts. Everybody's coming in because New Haven Works has had a lot of transitions and things like that. So it's a breath of fresh air. We're all coming in together and offering. We want to canvas, we know our areas, and then you can utilize us. And that we have our high school folks, and I know that our superintendent of schools is here. These are conversations that we'll have when school is open as well. So kids, our students get ignited. You don't want to go to college? There's an opportunity here. Let's get you trained. So thank you for that. And now the floor is, we're going to give it to Alderman.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I had three categories of questions, but first is the fiscal aspect of this project in relationship to the city. I'm very appreciative of all the investment happening from private, federal, state, local levels. But there are some costs from the listed also in the nodal provisions that just are a little bit concerning and just I love some explanation about what happens with any cost overruns for the project, the cost to the city in terms of like the tunnel maintenance going forward. I do, there are a lot of, there's a lot of information about the project as it's being built, but as a part of our city's, infrastructure going forward, sort of the cost of the city going forward over the next decade or more. And on the flip side of that, the cost to the city, with the revenue that it will bring, and it's wonderful it's being added to the grant list. But just, I just wanted to understand a little bit because I know there was like assessment deferral and some language in the agreement, like year 1 to 10, how much tax collection should we foresee from this project? And just start with the financial part first.
Sure. So on those three buckets, let's do the fiscal of the project itself, building the project. We laid it out on the 2 slides, which were the fiscal impact. Dial it back to when we applied for the grant, the innovation clusters grant. The state mandates to do 1 match. So $1 in, both sides. Now all that money's not coming to the city. We would never. But there is money that's associated with this development project, which we needed to figure out a one-to-one match. And through a lot of great work and a lot of gratitude, the Connecticut DOT was able to make available federal funds for the one match. We have some capital balances that are associated with the downtown crossing initiative, one match. So we're bringing to you a budget that is balanced. The challenge that we have is we're still early in design, right? So what Dean described was the waterfall of how do we fill gaps that will likely emerge because inflation, construction costs, unforeseen conditions, all of that. And that waterfall looks like this. And it's actually quite similar to some of the other projects we've done. The first is we look for is under every rock. Value engineering the project, looking at doing all of our best cost estimates, making good quality decisions on the project. The second is more grant applications. So we have 2 years to apply for federal funding, brownfields, finding other sources, right? So those are the first efforts, if you will. Including in your package the commitment of DECD, which is not, we're going to fund every gap. They did not commit to that. But they did say, we get it, we put this initiative together. It's a really uncertain time in the United States. What will costs look like? So we have that. Then the second is we wanted to create very clear financial waterfalls. The city would put in the next $600,000, up to $600,000 from our capital funds. We'll keep those reserved for something that may be unforeseen. The second $600,000 would come from the city side. And quite frankly, that's just, many ways to reinforce the partnership, right? Like, we're all focused on this. And then much like with one of the other projects, these are public improvements. These are city assets at the end of the day. We're responsible to build them and operate them, which leads to your second question, which is, what's it going to cost? Right? So if you go down there today, if you look at the tunnels we've built over time, so we have the 6th third tunnel. We have the one under this building. We have the one that heads over to the Omni Hotel. This one. This one has been in operation now since 2010, something like that. Looks really does look good. It was built to a high quality standard, which we will hold with the product, so that lowers the maintenance cost. We get some value because of the manual deluge system for fire protection. We get some value from the LED lighting, so the lighting lasts longer than before. So our operational costs, I think, down quite the fact that we've just really built this thing through this standard of the day, well, which we didn't have the benefit of the last 2 tunnels. And the last thing you asked about was the payments over time. I mean, as you know, every time we go to the Board of Alder's, we do not commit that. Whenever we peg to a number that's going to be this much in building permits, this much in taxes. But we do have a track record here, and that track record is about $5 million. And we're phasing 101 into one as well. The assessment deferral period is actually in this area. So it's a certain number of years at 50% and taxes, and that will phase in over time as well. In the aggregate over time already on the project, we're somewhere around $20 million of tax revenue to the city. And I think in many ways it's a testament to Carter building a project budget that can support paying taxes. And then, how important that is to fund all of these other public services that go along with having a function in the private sector, if you will. I do want to pause though, because on the operational side of the house, Giovanni is here. And if I miss something that's an operational risk or something that they pay our engineering budget that we're not aware of, it might be good just to say if there's something there.
No, I think you did a really good job of covering it. It was built well and purpose-built to make sure that we keep maintenance costs down as much as possible. We haven't had, raised maintenance items that we can repair at this point. Continuing that quality work is very helpful. And also having good owners of property above it. We collaborate on issues as they come up. They keep an eye on things for us and vice versa, and that's all very helpful.
That was the big second, so I'm very interested in the public plaza and the public space part aspect. My understanding is the plaza is owned privately, but will have public access. And I'm wondering, because it's privately owned, what kind of community input or programming or use will there be for that plaza? That will be, at the intersections of so many of our neighborhoods, these basic bridges and pedestrian walkways.
A couple of observations on it, and thank you for bringing it up. First was, we didn't talk, we should have said it more directly. We have this, elevation distance. We have to prioritize on the hill to downtown. The priority was making sure that hill connected to downtown, right? Hill to downtown. So it's at great on the south side, and then you have stairs on the other side. Two things in this development are important. The first is there's a property line between, although you see Carter, two different entities, right? Each of these is owned by a different LLC. So you will get an agreement between the two entities that makes it feel like one plaza. Even if there's a scuffle between the two LLCs over time, you can't open it up. It's one plaza. The second thing we did, recognizing the fact that it's not like the Unilever's going to open up a store or something, that we needed to have real contractual obligations, that we would do small business fairs, that we could activate the space with almost like the pop-ups that have been happening around town, so that we could build a pop-up and do the plaza and create this activation of the space. And there are contractual obligations in here that open up this plaza for that sort of activity, so that would create a real vibrant sense of place, even if the building itself is more traditional.
Great, thank you. And finally, it's a question about communication about the project with our community, from not just today and getting it approved, but as it's going along. Anything from construction and I mean, a lot of residents, are a little fatigued with so much construction and traffic going around the city. So just communicating what's going on, why, timeline, that there's, relief maybe on the other side, in terms of that, but also communication. And some of my colleagues, thank you so much for pointing out jobs, but also jobs that are livable wages, that can be unionized, that can really be jobs that really support families in our cities. So what is the communication plan as this development moves forward? Many of you are contributing to the joy.
If I'm going to take it just to put a personal religion. We take great, we have a standard of care, and we take great pride in construction communications with the removal of an expressway. And you'll remember, you would remember that probably took when we closed these exit ramps to make sure, and that was intense communications to work with people on alternate routes, being patient with construction, understanding the rationale behind all of this work. We built the graphics and we were out everywhere on construction communications. We will do the same for this job. And Mariani has taken that over. The reason why we're coming for the job is we've actually had people pass away who've worked on this job over time. One of them was Kelly DeSera. And if you knew Kelly, Kelly's a Worcester Square resident. She sat with us on 10 and like from engineering artists. And she built the construction communications, which leads to the Lone Star on the highway, where we work qualified. And it has a lot to do with people like Kelly who've worked on this job over time.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Good. Would you tell or share with my colleagues, as I was in one of the conversations, what your plan was for the cafeteria space and reaching out to businesses? Because I think it's important that we what your intentions are to try to connect those levels. And I love the idea, so I'd like you to share. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's important.
So we're talking about 101 here, which I would say these are very large buildings. They typically employ anywhere maybe 500, 1,500, or up to 2,000 people in buildings. They generally warrant some sort of food service in the building. But for the most part, I have not been in favor of bringing food service inside the building. I think the point to bringing people into these buildings and having them choose to eat is actually to have them go out into the community and experience New Haven. New Haven's got an incredibly vibrant restaurant scene and food scene. Go experience it. And so our tenants past have asked for food service in the building, which typically requires you bringing or a cafeteria operator in, and I can't help but get, cuts with Jello cubes out of my head, because that's what is stuck in my head with cafeteria. I didn't like that as an idea. I didn't want to bring that into the building. So what we did instead was we put effectively a blank kitchen. And the idea is to go out into the community with our operator of the kitchen and to source every food operator in New Haven and bring them into the building. They're not charged rent. They come in and they can set up their food, their lunch, their takeout dinner for the week, 2 weeks, for a month at a time without being charged. And they get to serve lunch to all people in the building. And what I like about it is people come down. We have a West African center right now. Everybody comes down from the upper floors. Some may like it, some may not, but it instigates these connections with people out in the community, where if you really love the food, you go find this restaurant and you bring your family in this restaurant. You go get takeout before you go home. It fosters these relationships. It gives us better food, a better experience. So it's something, if we can't get them to leave their office and go out into the community for lunch, we're going to bring the community.
I'm going to hand it back.
Alderman, I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make sure that they're able to charge for their food.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And you had mentioned in the community meeting that there was going to be free rent. Is this talking about there's other free rent for occupancy, for local residents or local?
So the only thing I can think of is there are three potential answers to that. One are the food vendors who come in and charge. The second is the classroom has an offset rent component. And then quantum CT right now is not charged rent. So as they get their feet under them, they are not charged rent through the series of grants and matches that they come into the building.
Thank you, Madam.
First, Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you for the time tonight. It's a meaningful journey. It speaks specifically to the meaningful nature of work here in the city. This kind of into it. I'm grateful that we have the opportunity not only to look value place, but the opportunity to connect residents to real opportunities to keep moving forward. That said, we also have housekeeping. So we talked a little bit about some of the things still to go. We've got the staff reports. There will be a site plan review, which will happen concurrently. So in August, we'll start that ramped up, and in September, it'll be formal. Then there are exhibits. So the development agreements go with the exhibits. Those exhibits are being packaged, and should the board favorably allow us to vote it out, we will give you all the exhibits and any other changes, big bold letters in front, anything that's material in nature. So things like the agreement on next line, the construction staging plan, which is very important to developers, right up against the project, if you will, and any number of exhibits like the deed, the legal description. So it's very important the way that you would see the one-on-one package, but we'll have that organized for you should you do that tonight, well before second reading, so ready to go. So do want to make sure we do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be here as well.
Oh, that's
No, there's only 30% design. Only 30% design. Estimate. At 30%. You know what I meant? Ballpark 6%. Ballpark? Ballpark. I went twice already. Just go. Where do you want me to start?
So at this time, we're going to ask for public testimony. We do have a list here. If you are not signed on and you want to present, we'll have you come up and present.
First up, Victoria
Like red Vertigan.
Like it as in red.
We're going to have you, your name and address. Thank you.
Victoria Vertigan, 130 Alps Road, Frankfort, Connecticut. Good evening, Chair Rodriguez, Vice Chair Douglas, and honorable members of the committee. As I stated, my name is Victoria, and I am Director of Public Policy at the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce, your neighbor to the street. On behalf of the Chamber, I'm here to testify in strong support of this development and land disposition agreement for 2 Church Street. This agreement isn't just a real estate transaction, it's the mechanism that turns years of momentum into something built. 2 Church Street, the Promenade, and the Art Bridge are the physical expression of what New Haven has been building for years. The regional economy rooted in quantum and life sciences. Approving this agreement is how the city makes that vision a reality. Carter and Stanley and his team have spent decades betting on New Haven's innovation real estate. And just yesterday, that confidence was affirmed at the federal level. The National Science Foundation has awarded Quantum CT and NSF engine grant. Combined with state funding commitments, this is exactly the kind of stacked investment that creates a Silicon Valley effect. It draws companies who want to grow alongside, not just visit New Haven. The NSF's decision confirms that the federal government sees quantum computing as a long-term bet, as we heard tonight. With real applications across Connecticut's core industries, not to mention the ripple effect it will have right in our region, especially New Haven, as we heard tonight, from workforce development to the effect it will have on tourism and small businesses in our city. This opportunity in front of the board tonight is very simple. The state and federal government have made their bets. The agreement is New Haven's opportunity to do the same, to move this project from planning into construction, to make sure the city captures the full benefit of the momentum it helped create. The chamber urges the board to approve this agreement. Thank you.
Next, Greg Crerar. Greg from Southern Connecticut.
I'm not Greg, he stepped away, but.
You're more than welcome.
Testimony, I think I'm next on. Well, my name is Peter.
It's nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.
I'm sorry.
You can read it.
Sure. So Greg is our new Vice President for Institutional Advancement. He's actually here speaking on behalf of Christine Broadbridge. Greg, I believe, lives in Cheshire. Christine Broadbridge in Cheshire. Sure. My name is Peter Tamolas, and I live at 23 Church Grounds Road in Trumbull, Connecticut. So Christine is our Executive Director for Research and Innovation at Southern, also the Director for the Connecticut State Colleges and Universities Center for Quantum and Nanotechnology, also leading workforce development in collaboration with Quantum CT. And the purpose of the testimony is to voice support for the project. And really what we see is New Haven is emerging as a nationally recognized center for innovation in quantum technologies, life science, advanced manufacturing. And this momentum is intentional. It's built up on strategic partnerships, investments from local government, from the state, from federal leaders. And my colleague Greg is right here for me. Exit this here. No, it's all good. Awesome. So, you know, and just recently the NSF awarded us significant investment that's going to become investments. This is really significant. So why this connects to Church Street development? It's because as the Administrator Piscatelli said, it's more than just a building. It's an opportunity to connect the economic development, workforce development, ensuring that really the city can participate, can benefit from this. And I have a few examples of residents that have been impacted in statistics. And through the Together We Grow framework, we demonstrated that growth and equity can advance together. And so the 2 Church Street is an opportunity just to build on that successful model. And Southern, our Center for Quantum and Nanotechnology, we've spent more than a decade building the education and workforce infrastructure that is needed to make these opportunities that are here, and more is coming, but to make them accessible, right? And these technologies and the industries, they're going to shape the future, and we can be at the center of them. And so the facilities, the partnerships supported by this development is going to ensure the residents can be part of that, and the students. So we have a fellowship program, right, to Redente. I'm also going to mention, I remember being your son's teacher, Eric. You know, we have opportunities for students like that, like Eric and others, to participate in a paid fellowship program that's going on right now. We have students from New Haven in that program right now. And Quantum Path is building on this model, right? And so, and we've had over 350 students and recent graduates placed in jobs and internships in STEM, emerging technology, many of them from New Haven. We have hundreds of students participating over the last decade in these paid research fellowships. And we have over 25 industry collaborations. We provide teacher professional development. We are creating these pathways to not only help the students get the skills and experiences, we have training for the teachers. We've loaned out tens of thousands of dollars of equipment, Career High School, many other high schools. Some specific stories. Maritza Sanchez is a New Haven resident. She began her journey in State Gateway Community College. We participated in our Worth Fellowship program. It's paying them a good wage, and now her research with the New Haven battery recycling startup. She transferred to Southern. She earned numerous awards. She's now working at one of the many STEM companies.
Catherine Perez graduated from Wilbur Cross. She participated in the program. She's now a physics teacher. I don't know how many notes available. So I'm gonna bring it to a close. My point is that, there is much we have done with the previous land development deals. And so going forward, the intent is to continue this momentum, to continue the impacts. And so we think that a development deal is a good idea and propose that you support it. Thank you so much.
Your name and address for the record?
Sure, I won't take more than 20 seconds. My name is Greg Carlisle. I live at 201 Water Street, Guilford, Connecticut. I've been a couple decade employee of Southern Connecticut. Southern is absolutely the workforce engine of New Haven and beyond. As you can see by the poster that I brought, we are an R2 institution, one of only a couple in New England, and we 100% support this. I'm a vice president there, and on behalf of the members, the work that our faculty do is amazing. There's testimony from Dr. Barbridge, who is, if you follow soccer, she's one of our Messi of the soccer world, or Michael Jordan of the basketball world. And so we are in support of this. The city has been a great partner to Southern, and I think thank you all for the work you do. So we appreciate it.
Lisa Brandis, also from Southern Connecticut.
Good evening, and thank you for letting me speak to you, to the honorable members of the committee. I'm Lisa Brandis. I'm a New Haven resident, 162 Willard Street in Westville, Ward 25. I'm a resident and a transit user. But I'm here in a couple of capacities. Yes, I'm a Southern student in my sort of second career, where I see a lot of Southern students that we've talked about. I'm here to support this program for a lot of reasons, for a lot of the different points of my life, and I'm also in the development committee. My new role, thank you for approving me, where I'm concerned as you are about jobs, about workers, about visitors, about students, and economic development as a whole. As a Southern student, I see my fellow students getting jobs, particularly those who are from New Haven. I'm a New Haven Promise ambassador and a New Haven Promise parent. My son graduated from ESUNS and just graduated from college. He is working in a final internship and works with New Haven Works to find a full-time job. And like many of his New Haven Promise cohort, he wants to live and work and stay and buy a house in New Haven. And so I see him and his colleagues and his cohort at the New Haven Promise Fair, where I'm hopeful as an economic development commissioner that many of businesses, and they are already partnered with both New Haven Works and with New Haven Promise to provide not only jobs, but those internships, that there's probably over a couple hundred New Haven Promise students at Southern, as well as all the other CT universities, public and private. I'm also here because I think New Haven is the place to be, and this piece of land and economic development it was the provision state, as we heard during the revolution, where we made and built things that became central to winning the American Revolution and the arsenal of democracy. The Shubert Theater used to be the place for 50 years where people would come to try out Broadway musicals because of how diverse and important and centrally interested people in New Haven of all types were, so that you could test out musicals and theater in New Haven. New Haven is the most demographically representative census group in America. It's the most like America, so no wonder that a company like Unilever wants to come here to do research and development and to test and to get focus groups on their products, because we in New Haven are those creative people who can tell them what's going to work and what's not going to work for a wide range of people in America. So I think that this is the place for New Haven. Who believes in this project and who's investing in New Haven? Obviously, the state government, local businesses and local developers, the federal government with the NSF grants. We can make sure that New Haven is not only the pizza capital, but also will now be the quantum capital of the United States. But we need your input, your support, your comments and approval for this two Church Street project. Now, we know that 70 years ago, the city and state and federal partners, many without input from the local community, tore apart the Oak Street neighborhood and the lives and the businesses that were there. We can't rebuild that. We can remember it and we can honor it, but we have a chance to build something new, something for the future of New Haven, something that we can all be a part of. And so I encourage you to support it for all the kinds of reasons.
Thank you so much.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Dr. Madden. Oh, Dr. Madden.
She's been here for the long haul today.
Yes.
Long day.
Yes, it's been a long day.
I'll start the time for you, Madam Chair.
This will be short and sweet. Good evening. I am Dr. Madeline Negron, Superintendent of the New Haven Public Schools. I reside at 70 Kite Street, Haven. Thank you, Chair Rodriguez and members of the Community Development Committee for the opportunity. I am here to support the 2 Church Street project. I believe this project will positively impact our community, and I appreciate the opportunity to share my perspective given our work on the career guidance programs, and especially with Carter Stanley on BioCity. This fall, the BioCity program at College Street will enter its 3rd year in operation. This program was launched through seed funding made available as part of the 101 College Street Development Agreement and various federal grants. Students at BioCity gain real-world experience, sharing the city lab as our city's leading professional scientists. Students in the program have an outstanding average GPA of 4.09 and have accumulated 400 college credits to date. 100% of our first cohort of graduates from the pathway will attend college this fall, transitioning into high-demand nursing, bioscience, and engineering programs across New England. Moreover, this project will benefit the entire community. Here are some ways. It builds a career pipeline for New Haven residents through local hiring, internships, and partnerships, expand STEM opportunities for students, including funding for BioCity, ACE construction, mentoring to high school students, and partners like Quantum CT, opportunities to be early learner leaders in quantum. And you know how we love being first. Expands New Haven's tax base to support other needed services like police and fire, and of course schools, and more local spending, which will help small business. I strongly support this project, and respectfully ask that you support this project and continue investing in opportunities that benefit our community. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your consideration.
Dan McLagan. Then after Dan, we'll have Paul McCraven come up.
Good evening, elders. My name is Dan McLagan, live in Westville at 399 Central Avenue, New Haven. And I'm here in my capacity as a member of the New Haven Economic Development Commission. The Development Commission has had the opportunity to learn about this proposal, and what stood out to me, we've heard this echoed quite a bit this evening, was that this project represents much more than a single building. It presents an opportunity to building an innovation cluster that can strengthen New Haven's economy for decades to come. Innovation clusters create something that's difficult to replicate. They bring together research institutions, growing companies, entrepreneurs, and workers in close proximity. That concentration attracts additional investment, high-quality jobs, and helps people thrive. For a city like Acadia, that's a tremendous opportunity. At the same time, this proposal is also an opportunity to repair New Haven's most significant urban renewal scars. So rather than leaving this area disconnected, it creates a walkable neighborhood with the public spaces, local businesses, like a new tax revenue that supports city services. I'm also really encouraged by the fact that we're not evaluating this project based only on future promises. There's an established track record with the Stanley team with local hiring, workforce partnerships, and movement. This DLDA builds on that history by establishing clear expectations and accountability for the next phase of development. As an economic development commissioner, I believe projects like this represent an opportunity to grow the New Haven economy while ensuring that the benefits are shared by all New Haven residents. I appreciate the work that's gone into holding these commitments to a high standard. Thank you.
Mr. Paul McCraven, Concord.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, my name is Paul McCraven. I live at 50 Stonehenge Place in Cheshire, Connecticut. I'm here as representing and Comcast, which are all Connecticut project. Concord is a partner in the project, has been part of the process. So we really appreciate being at the table early, so we provide input. We are very much in favor of this project moving forward. We feel that it's important. The technology economy that's growing in New Haven, here in biotech, and we want to make sure that New Haven residents are part of that growth, particularly on the workforce side. And Comcast has been working for many years as a trainer, training program, and getting young people ready for jobs. And we believe that this provides a great opportunity to connect young people to jobs in the biotech field. We actually technology. We actually did start a program called BioLaunch, which is a very successful program with training people to the biotech field and entry-level jobs where they only need a high school diploma. Being trained at the Yale West campus in a lab provided by Yale. And they do feel like those they do get jobs in these industries. So big numbers. We need to find a way to grow that program and ways to get more support. So I would just say that the for those here, we believe that this new development will add to the sum up by saying that we look forward to working with our Stanley on that's probably those two.
Thank you. I just want to I was glad to see that Comcast is involved in the progress of this project. Eases my heart now.
Good.
More so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Wayne McClellan. And Michael Harris to follow, please.
Good evening. McClellan. My address is 44 River Street. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. My name is Wayne McClellan. I'm the general manager of the Omni New Haven Hotel at Yale. Thank you for the opportunity to see me support the proposed Church Street Innovation Cluster project. Every day, my team welcomes visitors from around the country and around the world to meet. They come here to visit Yale University, attend conferences, receive medical care, collaborate with researchers, and experience everything our city has. They also form lasting impressions about who we are and where we live. The project before you tonight represents far more than the construction of another building. It's an investment in New Haven's future. Unilever's decision to invest approximately $270 million and establish a global innovation center here sends an unmistakable message to the business community worldwide. A company whose products reach 95% of American households, 7 billion people globally, has chosen New Haven as one of its big centers for research and development. As Unilever itself said, New Haven gets us to the future faster. That is an extraordinary endorsement of our city. This project builds upon years of public and private investment that transformed the former Route 34 corridor into one of the nation's emerging centers for life sciences and innovation. It brings together Yale University, the state of Connecticut, the city of New Haven, quantum CT, bio CT, private industry, and developers around a shared vision for sustained economic growth. The benefits extend well beyond the approximately 300 highly skilled scientists, engineers, and researchers who will work here. Innovation ecosystems create partnerships. They attract entrepreneurs, investors, academic collaborators, suppliers, consultants, conference attendees, and business travelers who support hotels, restaurants, retailers, cultural institutions, and countless small businesses throughout the town. I'm equally encouraged that this vision includes investments in public infrastructure, improving pedestrian connections, enhancing streetscapes, strengthening access between Union Station, downtown, and surrounding neighborhoods, and create more welcoming public spaces, and investments that benefit residents and visitors alike. Great innovation districts are also great neighborhoods. Perhaps most importantly, this project demonstrates confidence. Confidence from a global company making a long-term commitment. Confidence from the state of Connecticut investing in industries that already possess world-class competitive advantages. Confidence that New Haven can continue attracting the talent, ideas, and investment that will strengthen our economy for decades to come. This project demonstrates confidence in New Haven's future. As General Manager of the Omni New Haven Hotel at Yale, I'm proud to support this project. I respectfully encourage the board to support the 2 Church Street Innovation Cluster project.
Thank you. Testimony?
Michael Harris.
Good evening.
He only gets 2 minutes.
I'll try to talk fast.
Name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Michael Harris, 100 York Street, which is actually 0.28 miles from where this building is, which is one of the things I've had a chance to look up to. I'm here as the Chief Executive Officer of the Economic Development Corporation, speaking strongly in favor of this project, and it's been a long time. EDC, actually about 15 years ago, helped coordinate the Hilton. And 2 years, talked to residents about what was going to be happening at these parcels. Since then, EDC actually was the recipient of some state funding, so we helped sponsor the BioPath program, really one of the previous buildings. If you actually meet somebody who's gone through the program, part of it is it takes a while, it's college is 4 years. There are people who are inspired into a career in life science. Some of them got their first internships through programs that were supported by the state that are in these buildings. And it's really inspiring to see the BioCity program. These are high school juniors who are literally working next door to the inspiring economy. So, offering on this slide, just offer my reflection on what economic development values are being reflected in this project. For the question, like, what's the North Star in economic development? What are you trying to achieve? And for this proposal, for the highest. So first, you're looking at property tax revenue. We did an assessment of different types of land uses, different types of buildings. while, residential performs very well per acre, this very specific type of bioscience tower is one of the highest land uses in the city. Second, look at the actual physical structure of the building, the amount of additional landscaping and public space that's going to be next to this is unparalleled. There are plenty of places where they would be building lab space behind security fence, completely separated from the community. That's not what's going to be happening. I think there's actually a great opportunity, specifically talking about the innovation districts, to look at how we can expand out the economic impact of this building to the surrounding blocks. In 7 years, people are walking out of this building and buying lunch and going to happy hour. We need to make sure that those businesses as well are making money. That's additional dollars going back to the community. We know that the jobs in this building make a difference. Over a lifetime career, getting a job in the bioscience sector in average pay is $1.8 million wealth transfer. The other way that you can look at this is through the types of jobs. The first is we look at whether the jobs are what are often called prime jobs, whether they're selling to the world and bringing dollars to New Haven. A dentist is always going to be a problem for many people in dental care, but these types of jobs are uniquely bringing dollars. They're having the largest multiplier effects throughout the ecosystem, both in the purchasing power of good paying careers, but also because these jobs are going to be bringing in world-class scientists and companies that want to chase. We'd be happy to support this. Thanks for taking the time. Thank you.
Aaron Smith. Aaron Smith. Aaron Smith.
No.
Matt Puglisi. Matt Puglisi.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alders, for giving me the opportunity to close out the comments this evening. My name is Matt Puglisi, Deputy Commissioner and Chief Investment Officer at the Connecticut Department of Economic Development. Support very much, as does the department, this application and this project moving forward. And just in terms of background, I only have 3 minutes. I joined DCD as we started the community program, and I started that initiative from the start. So I want you to look at it through the same lens that DC looked at the project when the city wanted and Stanley brought it to us. We didn't just look at it as the innovation cluster project itself. We would have just built, just a single building. Instead, we looked at it in terms of the investment that it had. Carter and Stanley talked about the incubator effect, planting seeds, letting those things grow, and how that grows into a thriving over time. When I stand at the Two Church site and ground at the other investments that DCD is coming alongside the city and other philanthropic partners, we have supported the Garden Center, the Grand Avenue project, downtown Soup Kitchen, State Street pedestrian corridor improvements, the Schubert Theater, housing down LK through brownfield programs, condos, recent grand opening, significant investment there, Science Park, Match, City Seat. I do this not to brag, but to show that we're looking at the city in a variety of ways: workforce, housing, healthcare, environmental cleanup, economic investment. And we're looking at all of these and how all of these investments come together to make a really solid community. So I encourage you, as through the questions that you ask, that you look at this project, that you look at it also beyond just this initial seed innovation that the state is trying to plant here, but look at how everything will grow out of this. The Church Street Promenade and the Arch Street Bridge are public pedestrian improvements that will support the Union Square development, that will support the Towers project, that will support Neighbors in the Hill. That's how DCD looked at this. That's why CD made sure through many arduous hours of conversation with the city and with Stanley that we kept these components as part of this project, and that the budget didn't cause some of these public improvements to get shaved off as we were breaking things down to make sure we had a project that financially was feasible and could go forward. The other piece that I would like to just emphasize is that the goals and the outcomes have only been strengthened since the last September when we originally announced this. And the city and Stanley have really built out the team beyond what was originally part of that. We see that sitting here tonight to talk about Concord and Southern, and I just want to emphasize that for all of you. The outcomes that the city put into their grant application are put into the grant contract. When we talk about accountability, DCD is going to be looking to make sure that they are accountable for what they promised to deliver and that we do that contractual with them. I would also just like to emphasize as we look at that, the state of Connecticut is beyond this innovation cluster project, but through the entire quantum investment pot committed in seeing the success of this. So we want to be partnered with all of you at the city to ensure that this does deliver what it is that we're looking to deliver. And we're not going to just be writing a check for $50.5 million on this project and walking away. We're going to continue to partner with the city, with Stanley, with CT to ensure that this is the investment that Connecticut has. Finally, just a couple of other points. As we look at this project, all DCD projects come with different contractual agreements. That includes that this is going to be a competitively bid construction project that will be paying prevailing wage. So I do want to emphasize that. And so in summary, DCD remains committed to the city of New Haven, the state of Connecticut remains committed to the city of New Haven and being a partner as this project moves forward.
No other names on the list. Is anyone from the public wishing to speak?
Oh, no, I appreciate you. I can appreciate you. Name, address for the record, please.
Thank you for the opportunity to offer testimony. A.M. Bott, 190 Worcester Street. Founder of BAE, with a institution here in New Haven. Campuses in a couple of other cities. Very deep relationship with the school district, last 6 years. About 1,500 kids through deep secondary programs. 100% of our kids go to college. 85% major in STEM. We actively see kids who have minimal or no computer science or technology background or exposure, meaning who were drifting. I'm going to repeat the comments I made in the public event 2 weeks ago, so if you were there, my apologies for flipping it on you again. I have a very, very narrow and specific set of reasons for lots of great reasons, but I should focus on a very narrow and specific one. You should know that you're doing the slinky. Yes. If you set a slinky down the table, if you take one end of it and pull it gently, the whole slinky doesn't move. There's enough tension in the coil, the rest of it moves forward. And then you move the front end and it moves, there's enough tension that it moves forward. Every single piece of technology innovation proceeds that way. After the neighborhoods, got access to computers first, and then eventually it's internet access. You name it, down the line. We launched in that's not much of a product I can give it. I'm a different kid. I live here now in Worcester Square, but I grew up here. Earlier this year, we launched the region's first quantum program, a short high school program. 20 kids from across high school community, etc. Within 8 weeks of launching that program, we got from New Canaan, Marianne, New York, and a suburb of DC, asking if they could buy the program. Our 20 public school district at the front of the sleeve. What I want to underscore is that this is a generational opportunity. Right? I don't know when another one comes again, where a city like New Haven can create access to public high school kids on a technology that by its nature is going to be transformative, and that everybody else is going to try to catch up on. and we offer at scale. And so lots of good reasons for the project to go forward. It's great. I'm a resident. I hope there are lots of jobs. I hope there's increased tax base, but it's not my professional interest. My interest is in really underscoring this is a generational opportunity for our high school kids. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
At this time, we're going to ask if there's anyone else from the public wishing to testify on this item. And as you come up, we ask that you would have your name and address for the record. And if there's anyone else in the public wishing to testify on this item, we're just going to have you come up. Name and address for the record.
My name is Esme Lombard, and I serve as the Ecosystem Director for Quantum Connecticut. My address is 67 Cove Avenue in Norwalk, Connecticut. I've been fortunate in the last few months to spend time in New Haven and get to enjoy the restaurants and the area. I have friends here, and I have new friends and colleagues as I've begun my work here. Quantum Connecticut is a Connecticut statewide initiative to accelerate quantum technology research, company formation, workforce development, and industry growth. Quantum Connecticut works with universities, government agencies, educators, workforce organizations, and community partners to establish Connecticut as a nationally significant center for quantum technologies. New Haven is central to that work because of its concentration of scientific talent, research institutions, entrepreneurs, growing companies, and public and private investment. The 2 Church Street project would help convert those assets into a more connected, productive, innovation ecosystem. Successful technology clusters require more than research conducted in individual institutions. They require places for researchers, entrepreneurs, investors, students, employers, and community partners to work with one another, exchange ideas, build companies, and develop a shared workforce. This project would add new research, commercial space within New Haven's emerging innovation district, and strengthen the physical connection between downtown, the medical district, Union Station, and other major developments. It would also provide critical space for Connecticut's broader quantum industry, supporting Quantum Connecticut, but also the companies, startup researchers, and partners of the ecosystem. Its location is particularly important, bringing hundreds of employees, researchers, and visitors into this area that would generate daily activity, support nearby restaurants and businesses, and help to extend the economic impact of this innovation economy into this region. I do have more, and I'll cut my remarks a little bit short. I know I submitted written testimony. I also would like to point you to the letter that our CEO, Vivek Ramakrishnan, submitted on June. That letter addresses some of the questions that you had about how we feel about giving those opportunities, how we want to Connecticut would go about creating those jobs. Our work is organized around 4 pillars. It's Q Impact. It's partnering with the private sector and research faculty on quantum technology from pilot projects. It supports its Q Leap, which supports startups and investors in building incubators to strengthen Connecticut's entrepreneurial ecosystem. It's developing an interdisciplinary curricula and training pathways to prepare residents for next generation careers for our Q workforce. And Q College, which is really collaborating with stakeholders to demystify quantum technology and educate them. And it covers the full spectrum. I think I addressed in the meeting on the 15th that it's really K to grade. So it's really meeting people where they are when they need access, and slotting them into the opportunities to be able to enter the workforce or re-enter the workforce. That might be. So just point your attention to that letter, which explains a little bit more to me, but we fully support the project and look forward to working with you.
You can give that to Pat. Ma'am, can you Mr. Jermaine?
At this time, I'm going to ask if there's anyone else from the public wishing to speak, to speak on this item. Second time, I'm going to ask if there's anyone else from the public wishing to speak on this item. And for the third and final time, if there's anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item.
Madam Chair, motion to.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstain? The ayes have it. Thank you. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Alder Douglas.
I make a motion that we move this item.
Second.
The item has been moved in second. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair, given the testimony that we received tonight and from past experience of this project and the project before, I think that it's a win-win situation with the neighbor. Again, once again, it's about time that we've done something with that corridor, even going all the way down to the boulevard. It's just about time. I'm fully supportive.
Thank you. So I could go into all the positives, the generation opportunity that the gentleman spoke about for our high school kids, the tax revenue, cutting edge training, pathways to employment, infrastructure investment, and the new public spaces. I think Sir Wayne Stanley said it best when he put New Haven and Global together. As a fan of New Haven, like I am, I love this city. Hearing you say that at the beginning of your presentation gave me goosebumps. And to hear that New Haven would be a global leader, and I think that the track that you've set, I think collaboration and partnership is great, and I think we're headed right. And so I'm in full support of this project.
I'm also very much in support of this project. Research and development here in New Haven is our future, and I agree with everything my colleague just said. I've gone through a litany of lenses the city created with the future, as long as we bring everybody up with us, all of our current residents, our high school students, quantum physics. It's intriguing and interesting, and it could be the way of our future in many ways, and I'm very much in support of it.
Alderman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. 2 Church Street development lies in North Salem, I represent. And thought a lot about it, been asking residents in our ward and downtown entities for months now. And I just wanted to pull back sort of more not the details of the building taxes, but what this really means. When I first came to New Haven about a little over 30 years ago, one of the main stories coming out of New Haven was the effects of what happened with the Oak Street connector. And it is actually taught in urban planning books as one of the big disasters of urban redevelopment and what it did to New Haven. And we still, many decades later, live with that scar at the core of our city. And maybe there's an idea in the plaza or something in this project to recognize the 900 households and like 250 businesses that were destroyed for a highway, right? If in the 20th century, that's what we thought would be the best for the city, and now we know better. And now looking toward the future, not even 21st century, 22nd century. I mean, I went to the Day Academy graduation and saw some of these high school students learning about AI and quantum and future. And we have an amazing future here in New Haven, and having Unilever, Quantum Connecticut, and the NSF, like federal funding, which for science right now is coming harder and harder, but that they've bet on quantum in Connecticut and in New Haven is a huge sign of greater things to come and the potential that our city has and deserves. And that brings me now to the present, is we are here at this table making yet another momentous decision for our future. And I feel really grateful to my colleagues for and the presenters tonight for making it not just thinking about this future that has so much investment coming in and so many amazing breakthroughs that will be done in science and humanity, but it's community centered. It's centered on the our current workers, the communities that this former, this block sort of will reconnect from the hill to downtown, as well as it being just a great harbinger for our kids, our future, from the public schools to see this even being at the forefront of this amazing technology that is really like looking into is like it's blowing open computing and what can be done. And so I am fully in support of this, but I do want to make sure that we do keep development accountable, that it does stay tethered to the community and serves the community and listens to the community as it moves forward. And compared to developments in the past, I do feel that the city has centered that and has had the community meeting, has thought about all of those things, not afterwards as an afterthought and a reaction to community input, but bringing us in the beginning. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone who has stayed the course this evening with us, the public, those who testified, many of the presenters. As my colleague said, it also covers Ward 7. And I want to definitely highlight Director Piscitelli, because when we started this journey many years ago, one of the things that we talked about the Hill to Downtown project. And so here we are with Carlos Stanley, that for years has presented this, and we've had multiple conversations. And so I'm very excited to see one of these corridors is going to become absolutely, we lost a lot of houses, a lot of businesses. And so here we are with many people that presented and how they, and I'm going to use the sleepy that you mentioned, we're going to pull it and everyone is going to come along. And so, Haven, this is the opportunity that you connect with New Haven Works, that you reach out to the departments that are participating in this and not sit back, but come and sit at the table so that we can continue to get more New Haveners and folks from the surrounding towns. We're on the map for many other things. We're going to continue to be on the map for these science labs that are going to help and cure a lot of things moving forward in this world. So we thank all the presenters and colleagues. Each of you have said that you are in support of this. So all those in favor of moving this item to the full board? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. This meeting will be adjourned shortly. This will be moving to the full board. Thank you all for staying the course.
Chairman.
Second.
The motion has been made in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.